When it comes to data forward, it's going through my story telling that anyone can make it because even if you don't have background data, you can land a job in data analytics. LinkedIn, it's hard to come up with your own content. You need to look at what other people are doing. I'm not saying copying them, but influence your content through what's working for them because they have already posted. I think the best learning I've had over the last 6 months is don't build just for the sake of building. So I changed my mindset a little bit more on this concept of how do we build a feature that's called shut up and take my money. It's basically just, oh, there is no question about it. You love it so much that you want to pay for it.
Amney Mounir, also a former colleague of mine, is a lead data analyst at Poshmark as well as the founder of Data4.io, a live editor platform where users can practice technical data analytics interview questions commonly asked by top-tier companies. For some additional context, Poshmark is an online social resale platform for secondhand clothing. Also, since I have experience as a data engineer and Amney as a data analyst, the difference between the two is that an analyst typically interprets and communicates data insights while a data engineer works to build and maintain a scalable infrastructure that allows for data storage, processing, and retrieval. Hopefully that's helpful knowledge for this interview. Amney's mission is to help those with the technical skills required to work in data analytics roles bridge the gap between education and real-life application of those skills. Through his experiences recruiting himself as well as interviewing others for data analysis roles, he found that many applicants had excellent communication skills but lacked the abilities to pass technical interviews that are commonplace in industry. When first breaking into the industry himself, he struggled to get past these interviews before understanding the preparation required, but even then struggled to find the right resources to help with getting up to speed. Originally studying mechanical industrial engineering in France, he moved to the US in 2016 to attend the Hult Business School in San Francisco. He had friends tell him that data was a good field to break into, so he took a certificate exam from Oracle to be SQL certified. Although he actually failed the exam, he learned a lot from that experience and just started applying for jobs, eventually landing a role contracting for Facebook. Not loving the work itself, he then leveraged that role to get many interviews for new roles. He iterated through different roles for a couple of years before his latest recruiting cycle where he was able to generate multiple offers, ultimately landing on a role at Poshmark where he is now working as a lead data analyst while building Data4.io on the side. Data4.io currently has over 2,500 users and is generating at least $1,000 in revenue per month, hosting courses in SQL, providing common interview questions to applicants for data roles, and building out new features to help with every step of the recruitment process. Tune in to hear the wide range of experiences Amney has had throughout this journey and more in general about the different data-oriented jobs out there today and the process to getting hired into one.
Could you please give me and listeners a brief background about yourself, your experiences in industry, and then what ultimately led you to founding Data Forward and where you're at with it all today?
Sure. So, yeah, I have around 7 years of experience in data analytics. My story started in a weird way because I didn't study data analytics myself. I came up from industrial engineering background, which is totally different from what I'm doing right now. The reason I joined data, I was a contractor at Facebook and we were doing lots of manual processes there. And I actually met someone just randomly in a bus going back home, like the Facebook bus, and he was working in some data stuff. It looked fancy. He was coding. I was like, "What are you doing?" He was also French because I'm French, so we just start talking, and he told me about data analytics and what he was doing, and it just sounded pretty cool, especially the fact that he's building features, working with product managers to get them insights and recommendations. Just sounded pretty great for me at this time, and I wanted to get to know it a little bit more. So I did my own research and learned SQL. That's the first language I learned, and then started interviewing. Got my first role in a startup. I learned a lot of cool stuff. Then, yeah, that's what my career trajectory was like. When it comes to Data Forward was me. It's kind of going through my story, telling that like anyone can make it because even if you don't have background data, you can land a job in data analytics. So I wish I had this tool when I was starting. So it's basically a tool where you have access to 100, more than 100 real interview questions, preparing for any type of companies. And the reason I built that is because one, I wanted this platform for myself. And two is because I've interviewed so many people and they were struggling a lot in technical interviews. So I wanted to give them value. And that's why Dataford got founded.
Thank you for sharing all of that. I also wanted to ask you, about, did you go to business school, the Hult International Business School?
That's correct. So I coming from a background, industry engineering background from France. I came to the US to do master in business, international business. It's called, helping you to basically just be better at like business as a whole. It was a bunch of courses in finance, in economy, stuff that I didn't learn when I was in the engineering side. So yeah, definitely a great way to get to know better the business side of things, and to also have a chance to work potentially in the US.
Mm-hmm. Was that the one of the first things you did when you moved to the US? Was it around that time?
Yeah, so the first thing the main reason I got actually, I mean, accepted to the country itself through a visa was like from this school. So yeah, that was the main purpose.
Okay, gotcha. I've heard of that. Is it in San Francisco specifically?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's right by next to North Beach. So it's pretty
Yeah.
close to the to everything.
Okay. Very cool. I definitely have met people that have gone there.
Yeah.
I was also hoping, so could you explain to any listeners who may not be familiar with this type of work a little bit about data analysis, data engineering, the difference between the two, and then like the typical roles that these play in tech companies?
Sure, yeah. I can talk more about data analytics because that's my field, but I also worked with data engineers. So if I'm saying something wrong, Rosie, please stop me. So
Okay.
from the data analytics side, this is mostly pulling data or like to answer business problems. In companies, there are a lot of um, problem we're facing, or like opportunity that the company has to improve their business. That's why they need data analysts to kind of come up with opportunities from the data. So just to make it super simple for the audience, use tools. We use tools. These tools can be SQL, can be Python, can be any Power BI tools or like visualization tools, to share to stakeholders, people in the company, and bring them value through actionable recommendation and insights. So that's the role of data analytics itself. Data engineering, I think it's a more technical role where you have to basically help structure the data in a great way, or like have add all the data to tables so that it's available for data analysts to consume. So I feel like if I had to do like a kind of a pyramid, I think data engineering is the one of the most important job, because you need data engineers to have data at the first place, and data analysts are the one that use this data to bring insights to the company. And then I feel the next layer is data scientists that kind of like come up with this recommendation system based on data to predict future behaviors. So I like to compare data analysts and data scientists by saying that we looked at the past to give you a recommendation about the present, whereas data scientists use the present and the past to give you future recommendation on potential behavior of users. So yeah, that's my analogy here.
Okay, thank you for explaining the difference between the analysts and the scientists as well. Would you say data analysts works with machine learning engineers then? Do they kind of do a similar thing?
Yeah, I think there's a difference when data scientists are more in the machine learning side, research side. So they're more technical. They use more Python, more sophisticated tools. Analyst, it's more it's simpler, I would say, because you just use SQL and some Python to come up with recommendation. It's more, I feel like analysts are more involved in the product cycle as they work with product managers to build features, whereas data scientists is like another bucket.
Okay, so I also want to ask you about like when you were first breaking into data analysis, data science, and you were getting these initial jobs, what sort of lack of resources did you notice when you were first starting these technical interviews?
Yeah, well, there's the thing in the market when I used to look for jobs and to break into data analytics, there is so many resources. I don't think there's scarcity there. It's just about like which resource you want to pick to
Mm.
actually become or break into data. So that the thing, it's hard to find. You have all these platforms such as Coursera, Udemy, but then you come out to the platform and you don't know which course you need to take. So I think
Mm.
there's definitely a gap in the market in terms of like what's the platform that's going to help me to break into data analytics. I don't need to think through it. I just need to go to this platform and then learn. So this is the hardest part to find.
So almost like a simplicity, like removing the decision making for the people who are just trying to prep themselves for one specific role, kind of.
Yeah. Hmm.
Would you say that's how Data Force stands out against all these other resources? Like you just know what you're getting, and that's helpful.
That's the vision I have for the company. We're not there. There are platforms that are currently doing similar things, but we want to be the go-to platform for data analytics, potentially for other areas as well. We're exploring data science as there is such a boom in AI. But the main goal is to be the platform where people go to and know which step they need to take, from building their resume to preparing for their first interview to prepare to the technical interview and like how to do well in their last round, potentially even how to negotiate their offer. So I want to be the funnel, the platform to go through the whole funnel. And that's the thing I could not find elsewhere.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. Now, onto a different topic. So, in the last couple years, especially since COVID, I feel like there's been a big explosion in content creation and opportunities available with that. It's also a great way to expose your product and your business to potential clients and paying customers. But there's so many different avenues and approaches. So I wanted to ask you about your use of LinkedIn because I see that you've been quite active there, posting about your product that you're offering and your mission and everything. So how do you kind of see posting on LinkedIn? What are your goals with that? And do you plan to leverage posting there to like work to your advantage in any way with growing data forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. LinkedIn is one of the platform that gathered professionals looking for jobs. So it's a great avenue for data forward to bring more users to their platform. That's one of the main reason I decided to invest my time and energy into posting there. But as all the platform, you need to post more or post very regularly to get like a good number of impression and then hence uh, be able to promote your offerings, whatever that is. So yeah, that's why I think it has to be not only LinkedIn, it could be other platforms that you have to be doing that very regularly in order to make an impact. Honestly, when it comes to actual impact from LinkedIn, as of now, since we still have a pretty small audience, we have 2,600 followers on Data Forward and like I have around 27 on my personal. I'm not at the level where I can say that LinkedIn had impacted the growth of the company or the growth of Data Forward, but I'm hoping that within the next 6 months to 1 year, we can actually see tangible impact there. And yeah, that's the goal. So it's long term game. It's not short term.
Yeah, I think that's a very smart approach. I was wondering if you have any strategy right now to like when you post, what you post on LinkedIn.
Yeah, honestly, you cannot come up by yourself. Imagine you have to post 4 to 5 times a week. It's hard to come up with your own content. You need to look at what other people are doing, and I'm not saying copying them, but kind of influence your content through what's working for them because they have already posted, so you can see how many likes they got, how many comment um, reposts they have. So basically, their engagement, and see what's working. And that's my approach. I see what's actually working. I see there's huge interest in people landing jobs. They love to get tips on how to apply on LinkedIn or like stuff like that. So I'm trying to leverage this to get more followers. That's one. Two, I would say follow a lot of people on LinkedIn. I think following them and interacting with their content also helps you get more impression. I'm not sure how the LinkedIn algorithm work, but I feel that they probably have a user score where if people engage with other people's content, they are more likely to have a higher score. Hence, their own posts will have more impression. So, second thing I would say is also be interactive, comment on other people's posts. And three, I would say just reach out to people in the industry. Just ask them, as you're doing, Rosie, reach out to them, have a podcast or like a LinkedIn Live, and that you can leverage their own audience to your benefit as well. And it could be just a casual chat, but that could also help in growing your LinkedIn user base.
Okay. Thank you for sharing all that. It's very useful. How did you come to learn about it, like personally?
We used to work in a social, like kind of social-ish media company, so we know how important is it to engage and post regularly. And I think then also share some tips on how to grow their user base. They don't go into details because they cannot, but they tell you stuff like, oh, don't put many emojis in your post because it decreases the likelihood to have more impression. Also, they ask you not to use links, external links on the post, because obviously for the platform itself, if you're directing people out of the LinkedIn, it's not good. So I
Mm.
think it's a mix of research and common sense. This is how you come up with the best post. And I don't know if you noticed, but many people on LinkedIn use this trick. When people start their post, they have a hook, right? They never go all in on their post. They ask you, like, here are the 5 things that you need to do. Then you need to click on see more. The fact of clicking on see more tells the algorithm of LinkedIn that, like, oh, there is interest, so I'm going to give this person more impression. So they play around with the rules to increase their visibility as well. So a lot of tips that just made sense to me when I started seeing people posting, and I'm trying to apply as well for myself.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean, at least on Instagram. I've been seeing a lot of reels recently where it's just like a random video and then like a hook essentially, and it'll be like see caption below. And so then you have
Exactly.
to then click on expanding the caption, which sometimes is like massively long with a bunch of different steps or tips and tricks. And so I can understand that all plays into the algorithm. So then those posts are showing that they're like creating more higher engagement. So it is interesting to think about strategies you can do there to kind of trick the algorithm to show that your post is highly engaging. What about YouTube? Would you ever post there? Could you ever see that being useful for what you're trying to post about or create?
Yeah. There's always this like when you prioritize any feature, there's the impact and the time it's going to take. I feel that LinkedIn has, in my opinion, good impact, obviously in the long term. And the time it takes to build a post, to make a post, is relatively short. So you don't need to take hours and hours to build content. I haven't explored YouTube, but based on my prioritization grid, YouTube would take me a lot of time to build content because I need to have a good video and all of that stuff. So it might be very time consuming. That's why I never explored it. And also, like, you need to have good quality videos, and all the background needs to be great. And you're competing with a lot of people that have really good content. So I felt it was not the area I wanted to try. So I just just chose my fights, and LinkedIn is the platform that I want to keep building on. But definitely, if YouTube becomes a priority at some point, I might need to test it. I mean, I need to test it to see if it's going to work, but just based on that, it doesn't seem to be the great fit right now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I have had similar thoughts. And then also just, I know the fact that I've heard that YouTube will pay you if you have more than, I think, like 1,000 subscribers for videos, and they'll play ads on your videos and stuff. So I've always thought that's an interesting thing. But I think a lot of different platforms have something similar at this point. So you mentioned that the LinkedIn approach is more of a long-term plan for bringing people to Data Forward at this stage in building out Data Forward. How are you getting people to use it or test it out?
Yeah, That's a great question, and this is one of the struggle we have as we're building features. We are having kind of a hard time to have more users to use the platform. As of now, LinkedIn has been the main driver to traffic through my own page, where I actually have a click to action to sign up. The other thing is like working with influencers on LinkedIn to post about us, or through affiliate marketing offers where you give them as a part of the revenue. These are the only areas, and of course the workshop that I'm doing for free so that people see the value of data forward. These are the 2 3 ways that I'm currently using to bring users, but there's definitely other ways that could be more rewarding, but as of now these are the only 3 I have. Yeah.
Okay. And is there a way you have to get feedback from these initial users on your product? And if so, what have you noticed so far?
Yeah, we don't have a feedback loop system where we ask people to review the platform, but we have a community where people actually give us feedback on what they like, what they don't like about the platform. So we definitely hear them and listen to their feedback so that we can improve the platform moving forward. I think that we on last actually on December last year we had a session called a brainstorming session where we invited 3 premium users to join, and they actually we had a board where people could put their ideas, and then we were just voting on which idea had the highest number of votes, and to decide which feature we should build next. So we definitely have this sense of community there where we want the users to feel that this is not just a separate platform, this is their platform.
Yeah, that's very cool. So is that typically how you will get in touch with people in the community, like through Zoom calls, or do you have any other forum or mechanism where people can say stuff?
Yeah, we tried. We used to have Slack, but Slack was a paid option. You cannot see the history after a certain time. So we moved to another platform called Circle. Circle is a community platform that allows you to post, share content, and build community. So I found it really cool. So this is how I'm in touch with the premium users. So this is only for premium audience. We also have for non-premium users, they have the ability to actually send a message to support if they are encountering any bugs or have any feedback. Honestly, we haven't received so many feedback as of now, but people seems to be content with what we have as of now, but we're trying to build more value for them.
Yeah, nice. Okay, it's good to hear how you communicate with users. I was also hoping to hear from you on over the course of your journey with building Data Forward, what were some of the main challenges throughout this whole process? And if you can talk in depth about different iterations of it in general, that'd be lovely.
Oh yeah, that's I don't know where to start, but I think when you decide to build a product, I think you need to have the right team. I realized how important engineers are in this process. There is no chance you can build a great product with average or bad engineers. It's going to take just more time. It's going to be more time consuming on your side. It's going to be very frustrating. So for Data Forward, I went through multiple iteration in terms of finding the right person. It was definitely a struggle because when we started, I was not able to make my vision of the platform happen. So I needed to stop working with that first engineer to uh, do what's best for the platform, which is to find another person to work on it. And I went through multiple paths through connections, or I also used Upwork to find some talents. And I like this platform because it helps you to test. You don't need to actually have a commitment. You can test with the person and see if that's a fit and then move forward or not. So I tried with multiple people in Upwork, and I finally found the right person, which has been with us right now as it's been like 6 months since it's been a great asset to Data Forward. Yeah, so one would be to find the right people. Two, I think the best learning I've had over the last 6 months is don't build just for the sake of building. And I've been doing this mistake for quite a bit now. I've been building just because it's fun, it's cool, but then you realize, oh, I'm not making any money from that, or people are not even using it. So I just have a hypothesis that it sounds cool, but people don't see value of it because they're
Mhm.
not using it. So I changed my mindset a little bit more on this concept of how do we build a feature that just a feature that's called shut up and take my money. It's basically just, oh, there is no question about it. You love it so much that you want to pay for it. So yeah, we're shifting our mindset towards like, how do we build this kind of features that's going to bring so much value to the user that they're not even questioning their ability to pay or not. So they're not like, oh, should I pay for this platform? It should not be. It should be a no-brainer, and that's what will this type of thinking will help us actually build better features and more impactful feature moving forward.
Can you share an example of a feature that you wanted to build because you had a hypothesis, but then you realized that like it wasn't the move?
Yeah, a lot of them actually. I was thinking of quizzes to be the great hook to sign up to Dataford. I wanted people to check their level in SQL and and from there take a course um, based on their level. The idea sounded great because it was a personalized learning experience where people could just go on the quiz, know their level, and then really learn what they needed to learn, not go back to the basics or go too expert. So it was really tailored to their level. The issue with that is we didn't have any users were taking the quiz, but then they were not taking the course, or people were not even finishing the quiz. If although the quiz was only 2 minute long, so a lot of hypotheses that we had did not didn't pan out. So that was one of the feature that took a lot of time because it took me like almost 3 months to build the courses, almost 2 months to make it happen in the dev side, and the results were definitely not there.
I see. Okay. Thank you for sharing. That's very interesting. I was wondering if you could give a little snapshot into what Data Ford offers today and the status of it today, just to give listeners context into, what is this product? What does it do? What are all the different things available to you?
Yeah, Dataflow is a platform for anyone that want to land a job in data analytics, regardless of your background. If you have or have not studied data analytics, we teach you data analytics from scratch, from beginner to expert. So we actually ask you at the beginning to take a quiz, assessing your level. And then from there, we have a personalized experience to get you to expert level in SQL. SQL is the most used language in data analytics. So knowing that language will help you perform in interviews, especially in the technical interview. And I'm currently, there's also another offering, which is after you feel comfortable with your level, you will have access to 100 plus real SQL interview questions from companies like DoorDash or Google to prepare for your next interview. We are working on other areas to bring more value to the user. And one of the most cool feature that's coming up is the resume review. Many of the reason we built that is because we actually spoke to our users and asked them, okay, now that you use data for it, has it been useful? Many people loved it, but they're like, oh, but I never had any interviews. I'm not able to even get my first interview. So I'm not even able to experience what a technical interview is like. And it was clear to me that there was an issue with the resume, especially in these times where there's so much competition, right? So we're building a feature called resume review, where it's very simple. People just need to upload their resume, and there's an expert from the industry, like a recruiter or a mentor, that will check their resume and record um, their feedback in a video setting. So there would be the recruiter will send back a video with the resume and all the feedback they have on how to improve it and all the suggestions. This is what we're planning to do, and we're going to keep building to bring more value because SQL is only one step. We want to build product and business sense to help people master this execution business rounds that are mostly asked during interview. So yeah, so right now we're there and we want to get to that level, and that's probably going to happen by end of this month.
Okay, I see. So do you work with like actual recruiters then to bring them on, like recruiters from tech companies who
Yeah.
are actively hiring people in these roles? That's awesome. How do you incentivize recruiters to help you with this?
Money.
Okay.
I guess it's a revenue share program where, of course, the recruiters need to be rewarded for the work they're doing. So we are giving them a share of the revenue of the candidate. So the candidate needs to pay to get the resume review, and they get part of it, and we get a commission.
That makes sense. Okay. Very cool. Okay. I know we talked a little bit about this in our initial chat, and I'm going to ask about the financing of Data Forward and building it. Obviously, you had to hire engineers as well to build it out. So, how did you kind of approach this? Were there investments you made yourself? Did you bring on other people to help finance it? And in general, what are some things you kind of try to keep in mind? Do you try to keep shared equity below a certain level? Like, how much are you willing to invest in it in yourself? And what are your goals with profitability? I know that was like 5 questions, but this is context for what I'm trying to learn from you right now.
Yeah, I think this is a great question, and this is what I'm going through right now. So as of the start of Data Forward, since starting, I've been financing it myself. So when it comes to the engineering team, we have one designer as well. It's been out of pocket. I had two friends that invested in it. It was a small amount, so like probably less than $5,000, just to help on the development side. I am actually currently looking for a co-founder to help, and not only on the cost cutting side, but also splitting the cost of the platform and also helping on growing the user base. I've been too focusing on building features, and it's hard to do both. You cannot be on both fronts, especially when you have a full-time job. So yeah, that's why I'm looking for co-founders. So if there's anyone in your audience that's interested, please reach out to me. And yeah, um, when it comes to the shares of the company, of course, I want to keep a lot of ownership because I want to keep driving decision for it, and I don't want to be told what to do. I already have a full time job for that, so I would love to keep it as more than 60% ownership as we grow. And I think in terms of profitability goals, I kind of set a hard limit, which is like by December this year, we need to reach profitability. Otherwise, it's going to be complicated to keep burning cash. The two things I could potentially do would be like, oh, we don't need engineers anymore, so cut that to zero. And then we're just going to leave with like the revenue we're bringing to the platform. But that doesn't sound like a sound decision because we want to keep building and keep bringing value to the user and keep supporting our user base. So, yeah, if by December we're not able to get that level, we need to take some decisions, either through losing ownership of data for the bit, or yeah, taking a harsher decision, which I don't believe I would do. But if there is no way to get funding, we would need to make such decisions. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for sharing all that. It's really, really helpful to understanding how you approach it and how you run this company. And so, with the hard goal of being profitable by December, how do you establish goals for growth? And for example, how are you planning to get there? What are some things that you're working towards that you think are going to then equate to profitability by that time?
Yeah. So we have two features that we're building right now that are aimed to bring fast money to the platform, or as I said, these kind of features that are The resume that we're building next week is something that I really believe in, and I think there is high demand. So keep building features that people really need would be one. And two is, when I start building any feature moving forward, I just need to ask this question, whether this will help bring revenue or not. Because if it's just a cool feature to have, then we need to reprioritize it and then find what's actually going to work. So any feature that are product growth features need to be on the roadmap this year. I'm thinking about referrals. I'm thinking about working with influencers in the LinkedIn side, not to be just. I don't want. I'm looking for an influencer that can be an advisor on the user growth, not simply someone that can post about us and just ask for a specific amount. We want them to be our, yeah, our lever to keep growing. So I'm discussing with few influencers to have them join Dataford as advisors. I sent an offer yesterday to one of them. Hopefully, he will accept it. He's a pretty big influencer in LinkedIn in data. I think he also does a lot of YouTube, so that's also going to bring a different type of audience as well. The TLDR here is starting February this month. Our strategy has shifted. We're no longer building features just for the sake of building. We're building features to bring as much value to the users, and that value translates to actual revenue so that this profitability will be reached by December.
I see. Okay. Okay.
There's no clear roadmap how much I'm going to get in March, or because it's
Right.
not a predictable business at this
Right.
stage.
Makes sense. Yeah. Um, okay. And one other question I had that came up with the last few questions, you said you're looking for a co-founder. How do you like look at experiences for a co-founder right now? What sort of things would you want to see from someone who might want to work with you on this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, in general terms, I think having a co-founder is having an addition to the team that the team currently does not have. If it's to add a co-founder that has the exact same skills as me, data analyst or data analytics, it's not going to bring much value. So I'm thinking about a co-founder as an incremental value to the company. So that's one. I think for me right now, a co-founder would be perhaps someone that has experience in data science or AI that can bring data for to higher levels, not only in data analytics, but broaden potentially to data science. Could be one. Could be another person that has really like a growth hacker, right? Like I've been struggling to grow the user base. So maybe someone that has really creative ways to make that happen would also be a great candidate to be a co-founder.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, and I just have one last question for you. It's a big one, but as in like it's many questions in one, as that other one was. But so I just want to ask you about your current role at Poshmark, which is, I believe, senior analyst. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a lead data analyst. Yeah.
Lead data analyst. Sorry. Okay. What sort of things and how do you feel about the work you do today at Poshmark as it compares to the work I'm sure you're juggling in building this company? Because I would imagine they'd be very different. You're kind of doing an entrepreneurial route on the side of this full-time lead analyst role. Must be two quite different ways of spending your time. I was wondering if you could contrast the two a bit and how you feel about them.
Yeah, this is a great question. It's hard to juggle both because you have your full time, you need to keep being professional, and on the other side, you have your baby, the company you build. So I would say the contrast between the two is uh, when you work in a company such as Poshmark, there's everything is already in place. It's a huge company, right? There's lots of data analysts, there's processes in place, there are teams in place. So you know what your role is, you know what you need to do. It's predictable. On the other side, when you're an entrepreneur, you don't know what you're doing, right? You're just trying to figure things out, trying to test as much as possible. And try to increase revenue and make the company survive. So these are two different jobs per se, but there's some overlap. The overlap is we do a lot of testing at Poshmark to improve the user journey. So a lot of A/B testing there. So we have hypotheses. We think that this is going to work, and we test this hypothesis and then see the result from the test. And this is similar to what I'm doing on the side for Data Forward because I'm having a hypothesis and then I'm building on top of it to hope that this will stick. The only difference between the two is at Poshmark, you have data to back up your decision. The hypotheses just don't come up from anywhere. They come up from like, oh, there is a scope, there is data that actually support that this could be a good idea because there's a gap there. Whereas on the data for side, we don't have data or very limited data, so the we cannot back that any of our hypotheses. Is just I would not even say common sense. It's just test and learn kind of thing. This is the differences between the two that I'm juggling with. But when it comes to the time I'm taking for both, I think I don't forget that Poshmark is my main source of income, and I'm super professional in that sense. So I'm fully committed to the job when I'm doing it from 9 to 5. Then when I'm done, then this is where I tend to spend time with data for it. So this is I put strict limits just to make sure that there's no overlap between the two, and that doesn't cause any performance issue on my side at Poshmark.
Yeah, that was really useful to hear from. And it's nice to hear that there is some overlap and you can kind of use your experience at Poshmark, at least a little bit, with what you're doing now. But yeah, those are all the questions I have. I just want to thank you again for your time and for sharing your experiences. It's very informational and helpful to a lot of people. And I'm excited about this one because this is the first like data oriented conversation I've had on here, which is great because that's where I spent most of my career. So thanks again for everything.
Yeah, well, thanks for reaching out. I had a chance to go through your podcast. It looks pretty cool. You have really cool people there. Like I saw a bunch of CEOs in pretty known companies. So it's an honor for me as well to be part of this podcast. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.